I had somebody when they were supporting war crimes, I made a comment that, look, disobeying unlawful commands is pretty basic to our training as troopers. And they said, oh, you can shovel that. Bullshit. What are you saying? You would stand up for these guys? And I said, yeah, I would. I'm going to share a couple stories from the invasion of Iraq. Before I do, I'm going to say very quickly that I come from a lineage. I'm a legacy. The man who raised me was quite literally a hero of the Vietnam War, if you could say such a thing. He had more medals than any Delta operator I ever worked with or trained. I'm talking 7 Purple Hearts, 2 Silver Stars, 3 Bronze Stars, a bunch of medals I didn't even know what the fuck they were. And he never told me any of this. He worked with MACV SOG as a Marine. And he never told me any of this. I found it by snooping around in his shit. Why is that relevant? Give me about 5 minutes. So, during the invasion of Iraq, I kind of developed an eye for spotting unusual things. At the point in time that I'm gonna reference, we had already been ambushed 3 or 4 times. I think in Vietnam, the survival rate for an ambush was 30%. We had already survived 3 or 4. I just always saw them coming. My driver was Red Irish, IED Alley, and somebody wanted to weapons test a device called the Warlock. And what the Warlock did was send out a pulse, an EMP pulse, that would at first shut down any explosives in a 30-foot radius. And you had about 3 to 5 seconds, I believe it was, to clear that radius before the explosives self-detonated. So we would roll down IED Alley. Just gun it, man. Gun it. We turn the Warlock on and we gun it. We were field testing this tech. And just explosions. Right when boom, we blow right through, and these explosions just going off behind us, man. It was a fucking rush. So I developed an eye for seeing things that were out of place, whether it's behavior or items. There was a time when we found an IED along our route, and it was outside of Baghdad University, and there was this big overpass, and the IED was like at the base of the overpass. And so when we set up security, we were supposed to stop vehicles from coming down the overpass, and if we needed to give them a warning shot, we would. Not lethal, of course, warning shot. And I kind of had this thing where I never missed a moving target. I never missed a moving target. I don't know what it was. It was almost as if I could reach out without reaching out and just feel it. And so I could lead moving targets just perfect to hit them. And this car was coming down the overpass from the university. And I could see there were several people in the vehicle. And I received the order to stop the vehicle. And I really was the best shot among my men. And I led it. And I could feel where I needed to fire, how far I needed to lead the target. I could feel where I needed to fire to hit the engine block. Because I knew from past experience, when you hit that engine block or the radiator, it makes a loud noise and people panic and they usually slam the brakes. And if not, then there's shit coming out and fucking up their visibility, which leads them to hit the brakes. And I could feel how far I needed to lead this shot. And I don't know what happened, because when I pulled the trigger to fire a warning shot, to lead the shot on this moving vehicle and hit the engine block, I don't know what happened. But it was almost like an out-of-body experience where my vision was like an eagle or a falcon. I just zoomed in. It's almost like my vision followed the bullet. And I don't know if I hit the engine block or if I hit the passenger door, but I could see the look on this young woman's face. She was this beautiful Iraqi girl. She was a young woman, a college student, I could tell, in her early 20s. And I could see the look on her face when that round hit that vehicle. And something inside of me switched off. And I realized that the people giving me orders were not more intelligent than me. They weren't more experienced than me. So I don't forget her memory. I do want to say I don't know what happened after that, but I can tell you that when I came back from that deployment, I developed insomnia, and every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was that young woman's face. And I developed insomnia, which years later would lead me to begin studying Tibetan sleep yogas, Tibetan dream yogas, so that I could master my sleep and waking cycles. So despite my action against this young woman in a certain way, she led to me to one of my greatest gifts. There was another time, I can't remember if it was, where was it? Was it Mosul or Ramadi? I can't remember, but we were supporting some SEAL snipers. No, this is a different time. And I don't remember. I think we were still in Baghdad. But I received orders. This vehicle, we were guarding an intersection. And this vehicle, we told it to stop, and it didn't stop. It did, but then it just kind of slowly rolled. And I received orders to terminate the driver because they thought there would be an IED, an improvised explosive device, in the vehicle. And I was ordered to terminate the driver and stop the vehicle. And because of my experience with the young lady, months before, I refused that order. And I said, no. And he kept saying, you know, take the shot, take the shot, take the... He was panicking because he thought the vehicle was going to roll in and blow us all up. And I eventually told him on the radio, I said, shut the fuck up, dude. And as we approached this vehicle on foot, turns out the driver was in the fetal position in the driver's seat, thinking he was going to get shot up. And so when he saw all the armed people yelling, he had curled up in the fetal position in the driver's seat. And that's when I received my validation that the people giving the orders don't know better than me. And there was a time we had had a couple days downtime, and a lot of people were calling home and talking to their wives. And something I noticed, I had never called my ex-wife. Now, I had never called her when I ever had the opportunity. I didn't want to talk to anybody back home. I noticed that when people did that, they tended to get either killed or wounded and sent home, and I didn't want to bring my head out of the game and end up like them. So when I had this moment, I really needed to talk to somebody, and so I decided I'd call the man who raised me, the Vietnam legend that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And I called him and I said, hey man, I don't really want to talk to my ex-wife. I really don't want to talk to her. I just need to talk to somebody. And he said, man, when I worked with you guys in Nam, I knew you were crazy. He goes, but you doing what you're doing in this urban environment, I don't know how you're doing it. He said, I'm really proud of you, boy, and I love you. And that, out of all the things I've done in my life, that is when he told me he was proud of me. We go back out, we're out, and there's this sandstorm. It's wild. We can't see 5 feet in front of us. We usually drove with no lights on, and our drivers would wear nods, night vision goggles, and we wouldn't even have lights because we ran night missions. But because of this sandstorm, we all had the headlights on, and we were in enemy territory, and we're just moving real slow. And even though we're moving real slow, we still lost track. The convoy broke up, and we lost track of each other. And I see this Humvee as we're rolling past, this Humvee off to the side. I'm like, hey, slow down, slow down. I tell my driver, I'm the, I think we called it a TP, but I was the NCO sitting in the driver's seat. And I told the driver, I said, hey man, slow down, slow down. There was this Humvee turned over. It was like rolled upside down off a sand dune. I'm like, yo dude, I radio it in, and they're like, yo, we don't have any other personnel in the area. Just continue to your objective. And I'm like, negative. There is a vehicle overturned, and it's American. And they said, negative. We have no personnel in the area. Continue to your objective. I tell the driver, I said, stop. And he stops the vehicle. And I tell the platoon sergeant, I said, hey man, I'm getting out, I'm dismounting. Stop the convoy. There was some communication issues. Long story short, they don't stop. They keep going. We won't worry about that. I get out of the vehicle, I go to this overturned Humvee. There's 3 American soldiers. I think it was 2 men and a woman in this Humvee. And they said that they had rolled off a dune. They couldn't see when they were driving. They rolled off a dune and overturned. And I said, okay, come on. And we stuffed them into our Humvee, which was already, if you know, you know. There ain't a lot of space. But we stuffed these 3 people in our Humvee before we continue on. Turns out, disobeying, because the part I left out was the platoon sergeant saying, negative, keep moving. The fact I disobeyed that direct order got everybody in my unit during that deployment a honorary Order of the Spur commendation or award or whatever the fuck the Army calls it, where we're allowed to wear cowboy hats. I'm sorry, cavalry hats and spurs on our boots like the cavalrymen. All because when shit mattered, I decided I was gonna think for myself rather than just follow orders. So for the person out there saying, oh, what would you do? Would you stand up for these guys? What would you do? Shut that bullshit up. What would you do? That's what I would do, because that's what I've done multiple times. I think for my fucking self. And I don't follow orders from somebody who is either less informed or just plain fucking stupid. My life is my life. And I'm gonna make my own goddamn decisions. I'm gonna live by them. So that's what I would tell soldiers today. Obeying unlawful orders, don't. You fucking know better. You were trained to do different. Don't. You answer to your goddamn self, and that's the only person you're gonna have to answer to for the rest of your fucking life, every time you close your fucking eyes. So that's the person you listen to. Thank you for your time.